Okay, today I'm going to try to to show everyone how to play this collectible card game called Wyvern. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. We'll give it my best shot. There's a lot to hear, and I'm going to try not to mess this up. Wyvern is a collectible card game from the 90s, around 94, 95, right after Magic hit the scene, and everybody started designing collectible card games, and it was very popular for 2 to 3 years. And like almost every other collectible card game, it died a quick death because these games are very hard to support and keep going, which is why there's only a few alive today. Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh. There's not many. There were over 100 that have been created, um, and they all went out of business. But if you are a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, I will be shocked if you don't think this is a really fun game to play. Now you can buy this this is a starter deck that you can buy on eBay. They go for around $12 to $20, so that's not too bad. The booster packs go for more. Some of them are very expensive. There were 2 expansions to the game, which we won't get into on this video. Phoenix and Chameleon, they go for hundreds of dollars on eBay if you try to buy a booster box. But if you do buy these decks, and I recommend that you buy 2 so that you and a friend can play. If you buy 4, after you've learned how to play, you can take 2 decks and turn them into a better deck, which would be just an idea. I would definitely consider buying a bulk set of. You can even buy a starter deck box. Comes with like 12 decks. That's probably your best deal if you want to buy a bunch of cards. There's like 2 rares in each deck, so you will get a little bit of a variety, but most of the cards are going to be pretty similar. They're not exactly the same, so there'll be a variance in the decks. Also, this should come with the starter deck. It might not, but if it's factory sealed, it will. This is the little rule book that it comes with, and on page 8, which is the page you want to open to when you play this game, and so you can follow along, there is your turn sequence. The draw phase, there's 7 phases to the discard phase. It sounds complicated. Oh my God, 7 phases. It's not. I'll go over them all right now. But Wyvern, the reason I say if you like D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, you should like this game. My phone doesn't like to focus. It says what? I don't want to focus. I really. There we go. The game of dragons, dragon slayers, and treasure. It is also the game of terrains and gold, and we will get into that in a little bit. Okay, the setup is as follows. This is my opponent's setup. I've already set up my opponent. I'll set up mine later and do like a mock turn of the game. So this is how it looks. So this would be my opponent sitting here. This is his 6 battle positions. You begin the game with 6 battle positions, 3 in the front row, 3 in the back row, and you have 2 decks. The little deck is your Dragon Lair deck, and then your main deck where the cards in hand is your treasure hoard. So these 6 cards are each one is either a dragon or a terrain, and they all come from this deck. And then this, your treasure hoard, which is normally 40 to 50 cards roughly. This is where you draw cards and you play in your hand. You start with 7 cards in your hand. Okay. Now, in the basic game, when you buy one of these boxes, the deck could be as small as 15 in your Dragon Lair and 35 in your treasure hoard. In a normal game, the deck size is 20 or more in your Dragon Lair, 50 or more in your treasure hoard. But it really doesn't matter. You can make it as small as you want or as big as you want. It really doesn't matter. Okay, what's next? Okay, so as I said, in your Dragon Lair, there are 2 types of cards, dragons or terrains. So each one of these cards is either a red card or a green card, and you don't know because they're face down, and they won't know what you have set up either. You'll know. You get to look at those. You get to look at your cards, but your opponent doesn't. Now, thing about dragons in this game, which is really cool, is that every dragon in this game is based on an actual dragon of mythology. Every single one. And when you build your Wyvern deck or you buy your Wyvern deck, you'll see that each dragon in your deck is unique. You're only allowed one copy. There is one exception to that. Hold on, let me see if I've had the card here. Okay. The one exception is you might end up with 2 of this card in your starter deck. Sometimes they had 2 because it was either sloppy or because it's the most common card printed. That's just the case. A Wyvern is a great card in the basic game, though. A 4-strength flying dragon is a big guy. Dragon's strength will vary between 0 and I think the biggest in the game is 7. There is a dragon that attacks with an 8 strength. There's even other things too, but those are very uncommon. Almost all of the dragons in the game are 0 to 5. This is what you'll find in your basic starter deck. You might get lucky and open a 6 or a 7, but 0 to 5 is pretty much the normal range for this. And then we have terrains. Terrains, you can have up to 4 copies. Let me just set that one down. You can have up to 4 copies of any type of terrain. So here's lake. You can have up to 4 lakes in your deck. And then here's desert. They do exactly the same thing. They both say strength modifier -1. So terrains hurt dragons. So that Tarask, the 3-strength dragon that I showed you, or Wyvern, the 4-strength dragon, if they hit the terrain attaches to them and they become weaker. And your opponent gets the gold on the terrain. The gold is for your opponent. If your opponent's dragon hits your terrain, you get 2 gold, and their dragon gets whatever the strength mod. Most of the strength modifiers say -1. There is a couple that say -2, and then there's other abilities on terrains, which I'll show you in a second. Okay, I want to show you some of the different dragons in the game. Another thing about this game is it starts with 6 battle positions. If you want to play a shorter game, you can make it 5 or 4 or 3. You don't have to follow the main rule. You can do a shorter version, which we've done, and it's actually fun. Okay, different types of dragons in the game. As you can see, this Tarask is a strength 3 dragon. Wyvern is a strength 4 flying. Now, oddly enough, some of the flying dragons in the art don't have wings, and some of the dragons who aren't flying actually have wings in the art. But Tarask does not fly. Wyvern does. What that means for the game purposes is very simple. A flyer, when they attack, let me see if I've got one in here. Nope, that's not a flyer. Okay, so here's a flyer. Tiamat. Tiamat, if he attacks from this spot, he can fly over one row, my front row, because I have a front row and a back row, and he can attack my back row, or he can attack my front row. If he's in the back, if he's back here, he can fly over his row and attack my front row only. The only, if the dragon is not a flyer, like this guy, if he wants to attack, he has to be in the front row, and he can only attack my front row. So flyers have a much better range. And if your card is in the back row, the only way they can attack the back row is with a flyer in their front row. And that's a key, which I'll get into in a second. Okay, there's also dragons called scouts. And some scouts fly, and some scouts don't. And also, you see here that one of these cards has a gold symbol next to it. That is part of the cost. Here's a subterranean scout. Some dragons are subterranean dragons. Here's a flying scout. And as I showed over here, here's another scout, and he has 2 gold symbols on his card. The cost of the dragon is the base strength, which is printed on the card in almost every case. They forgot on a couple cards. I'll try to go over that at one point. But the base strength of the dragon plus any gold symbols is how much you have to pay the dragon who will fight for you. You only have to pay one time, though. Once you've paid for a dragon, he will fight for you as often as you want him to. That's just the rule of the game. So Tarask, you have to pay 3 gold. Wyvern, you have to pay 4 gold. This scout is free. You don't have to pay anything. You can just attack with it. Pan Lung, you can attack, but you have to pay 1 gold. And then Pan Lung has an ability. Some dragons have abilities, and that's why there's a gold symbol. Because of the ability, it adds to the cost of the dragon. So this, I think, is the only subterranean scout in the game. And there are cards that affect subterranean dragons. Subterranean dragons do not fly. It doesn't say fly, it doesn't fly. Then there's also a super flyer. I think I had him up here somewhere, but I forgot where I put him. Hold on. Okay, so here's a dragon that's a super flyer. A super flyer can attack any card, front or back row, doesn't matter. He can sit in the back row and attack any card. That's what he does. So this guy costs 4 gold, Kokukan. That's a super flyer. What other cards? So we have, here's a strength 0 dragon. Once I get my phone doesn't like focus. It just doesn't like focus. Never has. Nobody knows why. There we go. Okay, so he costs 1 gold. Here's Naga, who's a strength 3 dragon with an ability. Now the original Naga, they forgot to put strength 3. So if you open a deck and it has Naga and it doesn't say the strength 3, it just says this other stuff down here, his base strength is 3. And the reason I say base strength is the strength that's printed on the card. Current strength is what the dragon is currently at. And that means if this dragon, who's 0 strength, once again, we're dealing with focus, hits this terrain, the terrain attaches to the dragon. Oh my goodness. And now this dragon's current strength is -1. You can go into negative strength. Also, if this dragon hits the terrain's owner gets 2 gold pieces. And then the terrain is replaced. The reason scouts are in the game, if you haven't already guessed, somewhere there's a scout. There he is. Scouts destroy terrains. So if the scout hits the terrain, it's destroyed, and it is not replaced. So you would lose that position. It would just go away. Now you're down to 5 positions. Scout hits another terrain on your next turn, he's down to 4 positions. Scouts destroy terrains. Dragons do not. There is an odd rule in the game which we changed. The odd rule in the game says if the dragon that hits the terrain, if the terrain doesn't apply to the dragon, which I'll show you a reason why that is, the terrain is destroyed. We changed that to the terrain is swapped out because we don't think anything but scouts should destroy terrains. We think it's a better rule. If you want to follow the original rule, just go by the rules in the rule book. I'm just telling you that because I think it's a better rule, and I have yet to find someone who disagrees with me. I haven't asked many people. I haven't told many people about it though, so it's just among us. But this is what makes the game so fun: is that a terrain or is that a dragon? Should I attack with a scout or should I attack with a non-scout and hope it's a dragon? If I attack with a scout, I'm hoping it's a terrain because in battle, the dragon with the biggest strength wins and ties go to the attacker. So if my scout hits your scout, it's 0-0 and I'm winning. But then we have cards that we play that can make the strength bigger. And whoever ends up with the highest strength wins that battle. And the losing dragon dies. So that's where my dragons versus your dragons, and we're battling. So that's a lot of fun. Okay, let me show you some other dragons. Okay, so Naga's interesting ability, he attacks at 6 strength from face up, from face down, and 0 strength from face up. What that means is when you start the game, you're face down. If I attack with this dragon, and who's Naga, I turn him up, I pay 4 gold, because he's a strength 3 dragon, plus the gold symbol. And once again, my phone says, what? Focus? I don't know what that does. I don't understand what that is. Okay, but he attacks from face down as a 6 strength. So I'm attacking from face down. I flip him up. Now he's face up, but now he's a 6 in that attack. But after that, he defends at strength. No, he attacks at strength 6 from face up and 0. I keep saying it wrong. He attacks at strength 6 from face down. After that, he attacks as a 0 from face up. But on defense, he's a 3. So it's not hard to figure this out. Once you read the card properly, some of these will say from face down, some will say from face up. You have to be careful. You can get it mixed up very easily. And then there's a card like this, Gani. Gani protects treasures in the game. We haven't gotten to treasures yet, but that's just a thing. Here's a neat ability on Echidna. An Echidna costs 4 gold. If Echidna wins a battle, you can turn any face-up dragon face down. Now, if you're winning the battle, Echidna's up. When you're in a battle, your dragons are face up. So if you have no other dragon to turn down, you can turn down Echidna. You won't have to pay for it again. Once you've turned it over, you pay for it. If I turn it back down, that's okay. I've already paid for it. You'll remember that you paid for it. But normally you know you've paid for it because it's face up. But sometimes cards will get turned face down. Here's a big old strength 5 flying dragon Celestial. I won a game once with just Celestial in the basic game at Gen Con. It was a lot of fun. He tried, and 3 times he thought he had him killed, and 3 times I either survived or beat him in the battle. It was really fun. 3 strength flyer. Here's another 2 strength flyer with a gold symbol. Here's a basic 2 strength flyer, so he only costs 2. Here is a subterranean dragon, a big 4 strength subterranean. And here's a 2 strength subterranean who has an ability, but it's a minor ability, so they don't add any gold symbol. It just says giant ants cannot be played by either side. Giant ants is a rare card. You probably won't see it. It's really good on subterranean dragons, except for this guy. For some reason, they gave this guy, you can't use giant ants, which I thought that was kind of weird. And our super flyer. So that's some of the dragons. And then the terrains, the basic terrain is your opponent gets 2 gold and you get -1 strength modifier. Or you get 2 gold and your opponent gets -1 strength modifier. So lake, desert, these are just some different ones. Coral reef, there's quite a few. Some of them have abilities. Here's one called Brush Fire. So if your opponent hits this, you get 2 gold. This dragon that your opponent, this now attaches to your opponent's dragon, can't use the effects of any treasure for the rest of the game. And again, we'll get into treasures. Now here's one where the dragon might hit it and it doesn't apply. Pit. This is called a killer terrain. These are deadly. Kills dragons of 3 or less strength. What that means is if a 4 strength dragon hits it, and when the terrains are always down, so they don't know it's a terrain. So a 4 strength dragon attacks your face down card, you turn it up, it's pit, it doesn't apply to the dragon. The game says the 4 strength dragon kills pit, destroys it. We say the pit, nothing happened, the pit is swapped out, you exchange it, and I'll go over that later. Okay, so from your treasure hoard, you draw yourself 7 cards. Both players start with 7 cards, and that's your starting hand. There are 5 different card types in this game, and there's more if you add the expansions. Both players start with 25 gold coins, or you can use paper and pencil and write it down, or you can use dice to keep track of your gold. Just remember, dice roll, so use big 6-sided dice so they are less likely to roll. Or if you can get them, here's actual Wyvern coins. It even says, I can get you this, I don't know if I can get you to see it or not. I'll try. Well, I'm trying. But focus. It's hard to focus. And on the back, it's got a W. It's kind of a neat. So there's 30 coins there. And what you do is you put 5 in what's called the gold mine, which is right in between the players. There's this empty space. That's the gold mine. You throw 5 in. Or you can just use tokens. There's 30 tokens over there. Any tokens work. And you just start by putting 5 right here. So both players would put 5 in the gold mine, and you would take gold from the gold mine. You'd put gold into the gold mine. When you pay the money, the gold goes into the gold mine. Or you can just do it all on paper and pencil. It's easier that way probably to start. And you're probably not going to get these coins. These coins go for a lot of money on eBay. I got them when they were cheap. Okay, so in your treasure hoard, there are two different colors of cards. Purple, which is this, or gold. Gold are the treasures. That's what makes this game so much fun. And if you look, you can see, I'll move these out of the way, there are spaces here. Hold this up. So there's a space here and here, and there's a space here and here. Those are your 4 positions to place treasures. So you can play up to 4 treasures in a game, but only 1 per turn. And if you have all 4 treasure spots filled, and you have another treasure in your hand that you want to play, if you remember, it was called the, let me see if I can zoom in on it. It said treasure placement or replacement. Boy, I cannot get this to work right, can I? Yeah. You know, you do what you can. And that what you would do is just take your treasure, replace the treasure that you want to get rid of. The treasure you want to get rid of gets discarded, and that's what that means. It rarely happens. But I don't want to do treasures yet. We'll do treasures last. The first cards that I want to show you are called action. And as you remember, there's action phase is 4 and 6. First action phase, is it gonna focus? First action phase and second action phase. In those phases, which is just like Magic, it's the main phase, you can only play cards that say action. There's one exception, which we'll get to soon. What happens in the action phase is you stay in this phase until both players pass. So if nobody has any actions, then you go to the next phase, which is the battle phase. Okay? Now, it's really not hard. So if I have an action and my opponent passes, I could play another action or I can pass. If I say pass, my opponent could play an action or they can pass. Once both pass, you go to the next phase. This is a common card in the game. All players discard their hands and draw 5 cards from their treasure hoard draw pile. This card is nuts. This card can be so powerful. It's not always. Here's another action that you could play in the first or second action phase. Some cards will not work in the second action phase. I might have one here, then I can show you. So this just allows you to look at the next 5 cards of your deck or your opponent's, and you can rearrange them or shuffle. Here's one that says no scouts can attack this turn. So if your opponent has a scout up and you don't want them to attack with that scout because you've got a terrain, Zeus says no. So that's just another action that you would never play in the second action phase. No scouts can attack this turn. The second action phase is after the battle. Battle's done. In the second action phase, you're basically ending your turn, but you might have an action that you want to play. Here's an action that you might want to play. You just hit a terrain. Now it's in the second action phase, so you play village and remove that terrain. Remove any card from a dragon. It's not just terrains that can get attached to dragons. Other cards can get attached to dragons. Not as often, not nearly as often, but it can happen even in the basic game. So village is a nice little card to have. Here's one you will only play in the first action phase. Marduk. No battle action cards can be played this turn. If you haven't figured that out, once a battle begins, then you only play cards that say battle action, which we're going to get into next. So there's some actions. So in the battle phase, you can only play battle action cards. How hard is that? Right, it's very simple. So here's a neat little, see, it's a real simple card, so nothing much to read. So you basically possess the strength of a face-up dragon in the battlefield. It's an interesting card. Here's one that says all players can bring as many dragons as they want into the battlefield. It just goes nuts. They're very, very risky card because if you have 2 dragons in the battle and you can only get 2 dragons in the battle by some form of help, It's always one dragon versus one dragon unless a card effect allows for more dragons. If you lose the battle, all your dragons in the battle die, not just the one. So this is a risky, risky card. But if you have the superior position, then your opponent is nothing your opponent can do. This is a great card. Battle action. My dragon is going to lose the battle. He doesn't die. He bites the golden apple. He lives to fight another day. Here's another nice battle action. Oh, you're going to beat me, so I'm going to lose this battle. Okay, well, you have to pay me 2 gold. You can do both in a battle. My opponent is beating my dragon. My dragon's going to lose. I play the golden apple. If he loses, he survives. And, oh, you also have to pay me 2 gold. Now, I've spent 2 cards, but I got 2 gold and my dragon didn't die. Here's the help that I was talking about. You may bring 1 dragon. I have to slide this over because my camera's on my stand and I can't see it if I put it here. You may bring 1 dragon 1 card away into this battle. Flying dragons can come from anywhere in your battle. So you bring a dragon in to help your dragon. But if you still lose the battle, both dragons die. So it's risky, but it's powerful. And possession spell, both dragons don't die because you're possessing the dragon. And the dragon who's you've possessed is now strength 0, meaning you can't possess it a second time. You can't use it in some other way. So they said that that dragon is 0. You get to add the strength to your dragon. So it's a very cool card, but it costs 1 gold. See, some of these cost 1 gold. There are cards that cost 2, 3, 4. There is a card called Doomsday that costs 5 gold. Don't play it. It's not a good card. Badly worded card. I'm surprised they never fixed it. Or maybe there is some way to make it work that I'm not aware of. So if you can come up with that, let me know. But those are the battle actions. But there's also another type of battle action. It's just battle action, but it's strength modifiers. Just as the terrains said strength modifier -1, in battle, you can, let's do that battle where my scout attacked your card and you turned it up and it's a scout. So I'm winning 0-0. And you say, okay, I'll play Dwarven Army. Now your dragon gets +1 strength. So you're winning. And then I go, oh, well, I've got this card in my hand, Magic Sword. It costs me a gold piece, but now I get +2. So now I'm winning 2-1. Well, what if you had another Dwarven Army? Well, that would make it 2-2. I'd still be winning. So if you had a Magic Sword, you could pump it up to 3. But again, each time you do this, you're losing a card and paying gold. Here's Firebolt, 2 gold. So you lose 2 gold, but your dragon gets +3. And if you really want to spend a lot of gold and you're not worried about running out of gold, you can throw Fireball, which somehow gives your dragon +4 strength. I would think it would hit the other dragon for 4 points of damage, but that's just me from playing D&D. But you can see the D&D influence in the game. Dwarven Army, Magical Sword, Firebolt, Fireball. This is a lot of money to spend. You have to be very careful. You don't want to run out of gold, but +4 is huge. It'll turn most battles around. Then there are reactions. Reactions is when your opponent does something and you don't want them to do it, and you have a card that will stop them. These are the 2 most common reactions in the game. We haven't gotten to Dragon Slayers yet, but we will. Marina counters the play of a Dragon Slayer. Armor counters the play of a card that says Strength modifier. So I play my Magic Sword, give my dragon +2 strength. You say, nope, I play Armor, counters the Magical Sword. So I get nothing. That's reaction cards. There is one more reaction I want to show you because it's very common in the basic game. Your opponent plays Gold Thief, and he's going to take one of your gold pieces. You're going to lose 1 piece, he's going to gain 1. And you have in your hand Catch a Thief. I think both are common. So you catch the thief, and you get a gold instead. He also counters the play of the card called Treasure Thief. Treasure Thief destroys all treasures in play, yours and your opponent's, and if you don't want your treasures destroyed, you play Catch a Thief. And you catch the thief, and it stops the thief from destroying all the treasures. Fun. That's a fun thing. We'll get to Dragon Slayers soon. Well, actually, no, I will show them now. I will show them. I'll show you how they work later. There are These are the ones that you will find in your basic deck. There are a couple that are either uncommon or rare. I know Jason is rare. There's Sir Galahad. I think Sir Galahad is in the original set. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, Beowulf says, kills any dragon of 0 or less strength. I wish it had said slay. It's a dragon slayer. Dragon slayer action. Okay. Then there's Sigurd. Sigurd, you have to pay a gold piece. He can slay any dragon of 2 or less strength. So Beowulf is primarily used to slay those scouts so that they stop destroying your terrains. That's the primary use for it. There are 0 strength dragons in the game, though, and he can slay anything. And a 1 strength dragon with a -1 terrain modifier on it is now a 0 strength. The current strength would be 0, and dragon slayers go after the current strength, not the base strength. So it's the current strength of the dragon. So if you have a 4 strength dragon or 3 strength dragon, and you want to slay it with Sigurd, because Sigurd can slay any dragon of 2 or less strength, if you can get that dragon's strength down to 2, you can slay him with Sigurd. Or Sir Lancelot. Now he costs 2 gold, but he slays anything of 3 or less strength. Most of the dragons in this game are 2 or 3 strength. The little dragons are 0, 1. The medium dragons are, well, 2 is kind of still considered small a little, but it's more closer to medium. And 3 is, like a pretty good sized dragon. 4 and up are the big boys, 4 and 5. Then there's Cadmus. He costs 2 gold, just like Sir Lancelot. He can slay any flyer. So that's cool. He can slay any flyer. It doesn't matter how big the flyer is. And then there's St. George, which they decided we're going to do a dragon slayer that can destroy treasures. And I think Catch a Thief also stops St. George. Pretty sure. But he doesn't slay dragons, which is odd since the artwork he's slaying a dragon. But anyway, that's just, neither here nor there. Okay, treasures. In the game, in your treasure phase, as you remember the phase of the game, we have treasure, then movement, and then we do that first action, battle, second action. In the treasure phase, you can play up to 1 treasure. If you don't have any in your hand, you can't play any. But if you had this card, it costs 2 gold. Treasures will cost from 0 on up to 4 gold, I think is the most expensive one in the game, but you probably will not see in your basic deck. Sword says dragons in this row gain +1 strength when attacking. So if I play this and here, it means any dragon in this row, if I attack with it, will get a +1 strength when attacking. If I play it back here, it's that. And if you haven't figured it out, the movement phase is where you can move things, including treasures. You can move treasures, you can move things like this, you can swap this card and this card. You can do that. It doesn't matter. You get 2 movements in your movement phase, and we'll go through it in time. Let me show you some other treasures just to give you a feel for some of the most common ones in the game. So sword gives you +1 when attacking in that row. Jewels, which also cost 2 gold, and the phone is still confused. It will eventually start to work. You never know when it's going to work. Your dragons get +1 when defending. So that's neat. You get +1 if you got both of these. They get +1 all the time. Here's one called gold. Every time your dragon in the row wins a battle, you get a gold. And treasure room says every time the dragon in this row loses a battle, you get a gold. So that's neat. Here's a maiden in distress. This says dragons in this row can't be killed by dragon slayers. The dragon slayer can destroy the maiden in distress. Though I don't think destroy is what's actually happening, but I digress. Anyway, here's a really good card in the basic game. I think it might even be good and constructed. Secret Treasure. Action. This is an updated version. The original version probably doesn't say action, but it is an action. You draw 1 card from your treasure hoard draw pile for each gold piece you pay. If you just think about this organically, it makes sense that you can only do this in your action phases. You can do it as an action on your opponent's turn. You can do it, or on your turn. And you pay a gold piece, you draw a card. You want to do it again, you can keep doing it. The action phase stays until both players pass. So you could just, as long as you've got the gold, you can just keep drawing cards. Here's one that allows dragons in this row can help another dragon in this row. So it's a neat little, it's a very powerful effect, actually. And if you really want to be a sneaky little bastard, you can, for 2 gold pieces, play your pick a treasure, and then as an action, steal one of your opponent's treasures. And then you get to use that treasure. Just remember to give it back to your opponent after the game so you don't get your cards mixed up. So you got to mark them a certain way so you don't forget things like that. Okay, let me see where I'm at now. Okay, so now we're going to go over a turn. I've set up my battlefield, and this is my treasure hoard, and this is my dragon lair. And I've already I've set them up a certain way. I've got a starting hand here I'm going to show you. So in our starting hand, I've got the treasures gold and sword. And then we've got battle modifiers, 2 battle modifiers, magical sword and firebolt. I've got a gold thief. I'll try to steal a gold piece. I've got Marina to counter a Dragon Slayer, and I've got a Dragon Slayer in my hand. Now, that's a fairly typical starting hand. So following the turn sequence, we start by drawing a card. Let's just see what we get. Oh, I didn't even know it was on top, but I just drew help. So that's cool. So that goes into our hand. And then we do the treasure phase. Where is it? There it is. Okay, I'm not going to bother with this thing because it's going to keep focusing in and out of focus. So I can play either my gold treasure to get me gold, or I can play the attack. Do I want the +1 attack, or do I want to try to win a battle and go get gold? It really doesn't matter which one you want to start with. It's really up to you. What your strategy is, what you think would be best for your first turn. Now, the gold treasure costs nothing. The sword costs 2, so it's very expensive, but we're going to do it. So I'm going to pay 2 gold, or write it down, and I'm placing my treasure on the back row because I have a flyer in the back row that I'm going to attack with. I'm deciding, I have a scout. Let me just show you my setup. So we have a terrain, we have a big 4-strength dragon. This is our front row, a 4-strength sub, and a 3-strength dragon. And in our back row, we've got another terrain, brush fire, which says you can't use treasures. And then I've got my scout and my big old 5-strength flyer. So I'm either attacking with my 5-strength flyer, or I'm going to attack with my little scout and hope to hit a terrain. So that's the treasure. And the next would be movement. Let's say that I wanted to attack the back row with a flyer. I've decided, you know what, I'm going to go up and do that. Well, then I would have, first of all, I would have played this here. And then in the movement phase, I would have probably just, switched with one of these cards. And now I'm bringing up my 5-strength flyer. And then I'm going to attack the back row. But I'm not doing that right now. I just wanted to show you. In the movement phase, you get 2 moves. You can move up to 2. And you get only up to 1 treasure you can play. So then we go to the action phase. When both players pass, we go to the battle phase. I will play Gold Thief. I will try to steal gold. Let's just, curiously, I don't know what's in this hand. Let's just see if he has Catch a Thief. Lots of treasures he drew. No. Okay. He does have an action, though, which he can play, but Gold Thief is going to resolve, and I'm going to steal a gold, so I would get a gold piece. If he wants to, he could play Meteor Shower, but he doesn't want to because he's got 7 cards in his hand. He doesn't want to go down to 5. You really want to play that when you're low on cards, or your opponent has a bunch more cards than you. Like if you had 4 and he had 8, you might do it then. So I'm going to play that card, and that just goes in my discard pile over here. I get a gold piece. My opponent passes, so now we go to the combat phase. In the combat phase, I have 2 options, and I will get to Dragon Slayers after we go through the turn. I'll show you how they work. I can either attack with one of my dragons, or I can swap out. Let's say I didn't want to attack, and let's say I don't want this terrain for whatever reason, or I don't want this dragon. I'm going to swap this out. Whichever one I choose to swap out, I simply put it over here in the discard pile and replace it. And that is the end. The moment I do that, I've swapped out. Let's just see what I would get. Oh, it's another terrain. So that didn't work out. If I was trying to get rid of the terrain, because maybe I know he's got a scout and he's going to be coming after it, and I'm trying to get rid of my terrains to avoid the scout, that would be a reason to swap out a terrain. That they're coming at you with dragons, you might want to swap out a weaker dragon and hope to get a terrain. So there's all kinds of strategy with this game in ways like that. But hold on. So the moment I swap out, we go right to second action phase. And then we both play actions until we both pass. And then we go to the discard phase. And if I have more than 7 cards, I discard down to 7 cards. That almost never happens in the basic game. It does happen in the constructed game more often. But if I attack, it's very simple. I'm going to attack with my big 5 strength flyer. I turn him over, and now I can only attack the front row because I can only fly over 1 row. Now I have to pick. I have no clue. You want to roll a die and let the die tell you which one to attack, or just pick one. So I just pick this guy. We flip it over. I knew that was a terrain, but we'll do both. So I fly over, I attack, and I hit his card, Tiamat, who's a 3 strength flying dragon, and the phone is going to work because it must work. There it is. Okay, so 5-3, but I have to pay for my dragon. I have not paid for him yet. He costs 5, and my opponent has to pay. So we put 5 in, and my opponent has to pay 3. So he puts 3 into the gold mine, or you keeping this on paper. Now the battle is 5-3. Okay, so I win ties. My opponent has to decide, do I want to try to beat this guy, or do I want to let him die? My opponent has a +4 strength modifier and a +1 strength modifier. So he could get this up to 8. That's pretty good. So let's just say he decides, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. So he pays the 3 gold, and he plays Fireball. And now his dragon is a 7. So that goes in the discard pile over there. And we know, and now I don't know what he has. So I'm losing 5 to 7. Okay. I can get my guy up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if I had Golden Apple, I could really go for it, because if I lose, I could still save him and he won't die. But I don't have Golden Apple in my hand. So I decide, okay, he's at 7. I'll just go to 7 because that puts me in the lead. No reason to spend the extra gold. I'll tie at 7. Now I'm at 7. He's at 7. Actually, you tend to keep these cards when you play them. You tend to keep them out on the table so you can see what you've played. So you tend to just lay them somewhere where you can see which cards have been played. And then he plays his card, which is Dwarven, because he's going to take the lead. So he plays his Dwarven army. He goes up 1 point. And then I play my Firebolt, and I go up 3 points. And again, I have to pay 2 gold for that. So now I've spent 3. But now I win because he has nothing left. So we both lose cards, but I won the battle. So Tiamat gets discarded over there. And that's it. And these cards all go to the discard pile, and that's the battle. Now let's say instead of that card, I hit the terrain. So you all know what happens. My strength 5 dragon is going to be reduced to a strength 4. It'll attach basically like that. Or you can attach it like that if you just want to say, oh, it's got a forest on it. You know it's -1. This is probably the best way to do it. So now my dragon has been reduced to a 4. My opponent just got 2 gold, which helps with the gold because you can run out of gold in this game. This game is all about learning how to manage your gold so you don't run out. And you have to be very careful when to spend gold and when not to. So that is what would happen if the terrain hit. Now, if my scout attacked this card, my little 0 strength scout, now I'm losing 0-3. Do I want to try to win that battle, or should I let my scout die? I have to make that decision. Should I go for it? I had the strength modifiers of +5. In this case, if I had gone for it, he would have won. But I didn't know that. And then my scout would die. but I might let it die and keep my cards. It might be better to just let the scout die. But if the scout hit the terrain, of course, then the terrain is destroyed, and now he is definitely probably going to attack on his turn with the 3-strength flyer to get rid of my scout. Probably that would be his strategy, but I would destroy the terrain if I hit it. So that's how that works. Okay. So lastly is how to use Dragon Slayers. Dragon Slayers can only be played in the first action phase. And if you play a Dragon Slayer in the first action phase, you will skip the battle phase. You will not be attacking. You will not be swapping out. Dragon slaying, there is no battle when you go to slay a dragon. Okay? So, I can only slay a dragon if it's up. Here's a 3-strength flyer. Lancelot can slay it. Lancelot can slay the dragon of 3 or less strength. If that dragon's down, I don't know it's a even if I know it's a dragon, like if it got turned down, I can't slay it. It cannot be slayed by a dragon slayer if it's face down. I can only slay a face-up dragon. So I pay 2 gold in my first action phase, and it could be, I could first play Gold Thief if I had Gold Thief or some other action, as long as both players, we stay in the action phase until both players pass. So I can play other actions, and at some point, play my Dragon Slayer, or just play my Dragon Slayer right off the bat. And I go, I'm attempting to slay your dragon. If he has a Marina, he can stop it. If he doesn't have Marina, the dragon dies, goes away, and that's the end of that. And then we go right to second action phase. There is no battle, and that's how Dragon Slayers work. Dragon Slayers are very powerful, but Marina is a common card too, just as Armor is a common card that can stop those strength modifiers. And there are a couple other cards in the game that probably you will not get in your starter decks. There's a tiny chance you'll get something that'll affect Dragon Slayers. I actually built a Dragon Slayer deck, and I have a video of my Dragon Slayer deck if you'd like to watch that. But that's pretty much the game. Oh, if you run out of gold. Let's say I only had 4 gold left in the game, and I've got this dragon, but he's not paid for. He's face down. I cannot attack with him because I only have 4 gold. But if my opponent attacks him and I turn him up and I've got to pay 5, I don't have 5. So what happens? The dragon, because dragons covet gold and I'm actually paying the dragon takes my 4 gold or 3 gold or whatever I have left, takes it from me and leaves. And I lose that position. So that just becomes, he just goes over here, he says, bye, you don't have the money, I'm done. And that's why you don't want to leave dragons out that you can't afford. And if you run out of gold, you cannot pay for any dragon unless it's a free dragon. Like I can pay for this guy, he's free. But if he costs 1 gold, I can't pay for him. I mean, I'm swapping out, I'm going to swap into terrains, hope my opponent hits terrains. My opponent sees me with 0 gold. He's like, I think I'm going to attack with scouts right now. It's most likely the thing they'll do. Also, I can't play any card that costs gold. So I can't slay a dragon. I can't get help. I can't play magic sword. I can't play magical sword. I can't play any of these cards. I can only play the cards that are free and hope to find a way to get gold. The good thing is, if this guy's paid for and I run out of gold, well, at least I've got a 5-strength flyer that I can fight with. And if he can beat it, then I'm probably going to lose. But it is possible to win even when you run out of gold. It's just very unlikely. So this game is all about managing your gold and knowing when to lose the battle with the objective of winning the war. You can come back in this game. You can be down. I've come back down 6 battle positions to 1, and I've lost being up 6 battle positions to 1. That almost never happens. The odds are very low, but 6 to 3, that happens quite often. You can get back in the game. 5 to 3, 5 to 2 even. Comeback potential is very real, but obviously if you're up, you are more likely to win. If you're up 4 battle positions to your opponent's 2, you're more likely to win, obviously. But you still have to be careful, because if you run out of gold, your opponent could crush you real quick. So that's pretty much the game. I'm trying to think if there's anything I forgot. If I did forget something, I might make a video on the Phoenix and or the Chameleon expansion cards to show you what the changes, the additions to the game. If I've forgotten something, I'll add it to the video then. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you buy some starter decks on eBay and play the game, and let me know what you think of the game. And I think that's it. We'll talk some other time. Bye-bye.